Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. Not a battleground, surprisingly. We're going to be talking about why I'm feeling a little bit burnt out on WoW. And for lack of a better word, I'd say it's what I think is wrong with the game. Or just reasons in my mind that make me not want to play the game. So, let's get into it. Starting off, no character progression or customization, no badges or points. So back in Wrath of Lich King, Burning Crusade, if you ran a dungeon, you got points of some sort. Kind of like Azerite power, but a lot better. You'd get a certain amount of points because you normally wouldn't really get loot out of doing dungeons. Because either it's not an upgrade, or you just wouldn't get the upgrade because someone else gets it, or it just doesn't drop. But, so there used to be like Frost, Emblems of Frost. Emblems of Frost were like what I remember of Wrath of Lich King, which is the main expansion I played. If the first dungeon that you did of the day, even if you're level 70, which was like going into Wrath of Lich King, you'd be level 70. Even if you were level 70 and you queued up for a random dungeon, you'd get 10 Emblems of Frost, which you could spend like 60 of, or 60 to 80 to get a piece of gear. That's like raid, like current raid progression, item level equivalent, pretty much. That's no longer the game anymore. As we all know, pretty much all loot is pretty much RNG based outside of Mythic plus chests and PvP chests as well. So there's that. No different item level stages of character. So this kind of brings back to, I guess, so like how leveling works now. Say you're 110, you hit 120. You hit 120. The current raid tier, right? Mythic's 385. The next raid tier will be maybe 400, 410 Mythic. What's going to happen, and what is happening, is there's really no sense of, I'm a new 120. I have to get this gear, to get this gear, to get this gear, to get this gear. An example of that would be in Wrath of Lich King. Say you hit level 80, and I remember playing a tank. I'm not sure if you guys like this music or not either. I'll just log in. Log in on, so let's say Paladin. So, I played a tank in Wrath of Lich King. I remember defense rating, and there was a bare minimum defense rating for tanking dungeons. Otherwise, if you didn't have that, you'd get critically hit from bosses, and you'd get shit on. So, there was that specific requirement, which obviously isn't in the game anymore. But there was stages of gearing, right? You buy that gear off the auction house. I remember it's like Tempered Serenite or something off the auction house. You get that defense rating to tank the dungeons, and then once you start tanking the dungeons, you can actually get upgrades. You slowly progress your item level from dog shit to a little bit better than dog shit to, say, 3.3.5, like Forge of Souls and Pit of Sauron and all that. Like, you go into those dungeons. Pit of Sauron, you're like 30 item levels below Wrath of Lich King gear. Once you, I guess, get into the later 5-man dungeons of Wrath of Lich King, you would start doing raids such as Trial of the Crusader. TOC was also very good, the dungeon version, and Pit of Sauron, Vault of Archivon, something like that. Those were all raids that you had to do, or instances that you had to do to kind of even get into raiding. Right now, all you have to do is level, do arena to get 340 gear, or do mythics to get 340 gear. Once you get that 340 gear, you can do mythics and arena, and then go as high as you can. You know, just do as high as the mythic as you can, do as high of arena as you can, and you'll be pretty much, I don't want to say best in slot, but pretty high item level within like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you really grind it out. But that's my shitty comparison. I think there's no more stages of character progression at max level. I think it's all just one stage. I think you go from max level to having no gear to having all the gear. And then when you do get a gear upgrade, even like right now I have 350 item level. When you do get a gear upgrade, you notice like almost no difference. No difference in power, I'd say. Other than stats, but unless it's a Titanforge, but you know, your item level goes up one, and that's it. That's the only like noticeable thing you'll realize, that your numbers go up. But what happens now, especially when you get the gear that is a really good upgrade, even if it is Titanforge, you don't think you've earned it. And back in I always say Wrath of Lich King because I'm kind of comparing it to when I played back in the day. And Wrath of Lich King is when I absolutely loved the game. Like right now, you'll get a Titanforge piece. You'll be like, oh, nice, a Titanforge piece. That's 5 item level upgrade. Your average item level go up 5 item levels. You're like, oh man, that feels good. But you didn't expect it. You didn't work your way towards it or anything, and you weren't expecting it. You weren't working your way towards it. And I don't want to say it feels undeserved, but when you just get something that you don't expect randomly, it's rewarding, but it's not rewarding. Especially when it almost feels like it has no impact on your actual class. So, yeah. I could go into this further, saying, like, comparing, let's say your first time tanking ICC, a piece of gear drops, you equip that piece of gear, you feel a huge power surge in your character. Like, your health goes up, like, 3,000 health, your different weapon, different shield, your armor goes up. I don't know. I don't want to say it's not the same, but compare, like, getting a tier raid piece, finishing a 2-set tier raid piece for tanking or DPSing compared to just getting a normal Titanforge, say, 370 piece of gear, if I have one. Like this one, or, you know, I don't actually have any. This one right here. Yeah, I didn't feel very happy when I got this 360 Titanforge, but, you know, it happened. Other than that, like, when it comes down to PvE world quests, I absolutely hate these at this point. I don't want to say they're the same thing as Legion, because they're actually different quests, but essentially it's the same thing. New world quests in the new zones, with new quests and new objectives that you're going to repeat the entire expansion for reputation, or daily bonus objectives. These world quests don't progress your character at all other than Azerite power. The gear that you do get from world quests is pretty much pointless and is always disenchanted. The highest item level stuff you will get out of a mythic world quest. World quest is 340, which is pretty bad. There's Azerite power, gold. Even the gold rewards are pretty bad. I mean, 80 gold's less than I get from Vendor and Grays. The only real reason I do world quests is for war resources, because with war resources I do use that for my missions, and my missions I do have followers with follower equipment to get gold from, so that's the only reason I do world quests. Other than that, I mean, there's the raid bosses and stuff. I mean, free loot that you have a chance to get suddenly with no real progression towards it, but, you know, that's that. Yeah, that's what I think of world quests, honestly. I've tried not to do them, but, you know, sometimes I have to do them for war resources. Moving on to Azerite traits, guys. Azerite traits, I feel, are a poor man's Wrath of Lich King talent tree / glyph system rebranded. I think that's all it is, really. It's, if they made traits into a talent tree and then just released a talent tree like it used to be with trait actives in it, that would be so awesome. Just having a choice to get 512 mastery, or having, you know, haste increase whenever you use Crusader Strike. I feel like all these are things that just could be in a talent tree. That should be in a talent tree. But they put it on gear that's locked behind Azerite power. And the reason they lock it behind Azerite power is so you have to grind the Azerite power, which no one wants to grind, but you have to anyway. And the best way to grind that is the most pointless thing in the game, world quests. So, that's my complaint. So let's talk about classes feeling the same, because I explained that horribly. I think it's just because I've played the game so long, but the difference between a mage and a warlock and a shadow priest, to me, and a boomy, I'd say, is boomy and mage are a little bit more mobile, warlock and priest are a little bit more immobile, but they have more cooldowns. I think it's boring that they made abilities with the same ability. So, Bark Skin reduces damage taken by 20%. Divine Protection reduces damage taken by 20%. Astral Shift reduces damage taken by 40%. Turtle reduces damage taken by 30%. Enrage Regen reduces damage taken by 30%. Shadow Priest passive reduces damage taken by 20%. Unending Resolve reduces damage taken by 20%, 40%, whatever. Blur reduces damage taken by 35%. You get the idea here, I hope. A lot of abilities are the same. Therefore, I feel like some classes feel the same. Over the many expansions that I've played / tried to play every class, if you want proof, I'll kind of show you guys. I've been trying to play every class at max level for the past 3 expansions, determined to do that. And then Miss Pandaria, I was just, like, I tried to, but I don't think I got it. I think I got really close, actually, but... So this is the realm I have now. This was the realm I had before Zul'jin, where I had every class max level just about. On Alliance side, you'll see they're all 90, so these are all the guys I had in, back in Mob, and then I progressed all these guys through Road to Draenor, and then this is where I switched to Horde, and that's when I started making Horde tunes. But all these guys, I mean, they were all max level in Road to Draenor, or Miss Pandaria, sorry. And, yeah, that's that. I did have a Hunter on Kel'Thuzad too. I mean, I could go through my tune list all day, but, I've played many expansions, but point is, I feel like it's just been a long time since classes just had a huge change. And a, like, basic playstyle change. And the reason I loved Wrath of Lich King, or... you know, Burning Crusade, is because the new abilities that they'd introduce, say Frost Firebolt, or Ice Lance, or Deep Freeze, or Black Arrow, Chimera Shot, all these talents, Steady Shot, all these things that were introduced that were new abilities, I'd say directly impacted the core rotation, and I guess gave an aspect of uniqueness to every class, and spec in general. I think what makes classes feel the same, really, is the fact that there's no talent trees anymore, no customization. Say I make a Warlock on one server, log in on another Warlock on another server. The only thing that's going to make those two Warlocks different, if they are the same spec, since there's no talent trees, are the talent choices that I use right now, which are, I don't agree with the talent. I wouldn't call what we have right now a talent tree. I wouldn't at all. But what talent I take currently, and then the stats I have. Everything else will be the same. I mean, get them the same gear. I guess they'll be the same, but... I don't know. There's so much that goes into World of Warcraft. It's so hard for Blizzard to fix, too. Like, I'd say Blizzard isn't sincerely trying to fix the problems, but others would disagree. But yeah, some classes just feel the same. The next argument. It's the same expansion as Legion, but with a different skin and different zones, but with less features. And of course there's going to be more features rolled out as the expansion progresses for BFA. Point in case would be the honor-bound invasions that are going to be happening in 8.1, where they kind of work like the Legion invasions. It sounds familiar, right? I mean, we had the same thing in Legion. It sounds like they just threw it out. It's out there again one patch early, because they don't have anything else to throw out there. So, I do think BFA, for the most part, is probably going to be the same thing as Legion, with a little bit less features. There's Island Expeditions, but those suck. I'm not even going to touch those ever. Raids, Mythics, Arena. It's the go-to. And there's World Quest. Woo, I love World Quest. And then, I guess this World Quests do fall into the next category a little bit. Only the current world is relevant, never the old world. Feels bad. The game is called World of Warcraft, correct? It's called World of Warcraft. But I'm never in this world. I'm almost never in this world. I'm never in this world. I'm never in this world. But I'm in the world of Zandalar and Kultiris. The whole expansion. And I think this is a horror. Like, this just goes into game design rather than the expansion. But the idea that an expansion has to be based around a new land continent, and that land continent only, I feel is a horrible idea. I feel that a new expansion should maybe add a new land continent. Yeah, go for it. It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea, if anything. But I don't think that you should restrict the players to one continent throughout an entire expansion, and then keep progressing through expansions, all while ignoring the past expansions and all the content you have out currently. I think that is a bad idea. I'd say a lot of people think that's a bad idea, but that's just how it is. I mean, I can't. I have been to Outland in like a year. I'd say easy. Draenor, I don't even want to talk about that horrible place. I'd be fine if you just removed that place at this point. But I really wish we did revisit these zones. Just old Kalimdor, old Eastern Kingdoms, old Northern, old maybe not even Pandaria. Maybe just these zones. No one cares about these ones. Just these ones right here. Yeah, I do think there needs to be some old world revitalization, such as Cataclysm again, except not completely screwing the game over. Off topic, but I enjoyed the old world zone way more than the Cataclysm zones. Just saying. But anyway, I do think there needs to be invasions, world events, something that happens in these old zones, because, man, it is something. I don't know. I do miss just invasions, just world events popping up randomly. And this is something that so many other MMOs have, but just World of Warcraft doesn't. And it's something that they just haven't picked up. They have, but they haven't. Like, other games, I guess they have it. Example, Guild Wars 2. They have invasions happening in zones all across the world. Starting zones, every zone. Not just the relevant expansion zones. World of Warcraft only does the relevant expansion zones. That's my complaints about WoW, guys. It just feels the same. I feel like I'm logging on every day just to do the same thing, and there's really no reward behind it. There's no raids to get into. I mean, there is, but there's pugs, and then they require an item level that's like 10 item levels higher than the gear that drops from the pug. So then that really doesn't make too much sense to me, so then I don't raid. And then I do arenas and mythics. But that's the same thing on every tune. But that's the only way to get item level. Because you can't get item level from World Quest. If you could get item level from World Quest, that'd be a different story. Or invasions across the world that give you good gear or tokens that you can get to buy raid equivalent gear. Oh man, that'd be awesome. But that's not a thing. Anyway, if you guys like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and click the bell to be notified when we release new videos. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching. Till next time, guys. See you guys later.